Oh, we're live. No countdown, Lacey. Whoa, whoa. What is happening? What is happening? Intro is messed up. The producer. We just practiced that. Hey, you are looking live at the GovCast. December, holiday time. KG's in the house today. We're blessed, making big things happen. Paige Mockler's here. Woo! So we're getting off to a choppy start. December. Thought we were rocking and rolling. Thought we were prepared, but no. Hey, Paige.
Hi-yo.
Welcome to the show. 2 weeks in a row, huh?
I know.
It must have gone so well.
So much.
I was going to say, it must have gone so well last week. So God bless. Welcome back to the show. Andrea's out. I'm in, and you're still here. Maybe you're the new host.
We'll see about that.
Yes. You want to introduce yourself for the people that do not know Paige Mockler?
Yes. So my name is Paige Mockler. I've been with GovSpend for almost 5 years. After much persuasion being in the customer side, I transferred over to the sales side, the dark side, and haven't looked back since. So I appreciate the opportunity.
A lot of poking and prodding to like, Paige, you'll be great in sales. You'll be great in sales. And finally, she saw the light and we managed to suck her into the sales team. So super happy to have her as part of our GovSpend team and now part of the GovCast team.
Thank you.
You go. So funny, the intro. We've been practicing that intro. We'll have more practice for the intro. But super blessed today to have Kevin Dorsey here. So we will get to him in just a little bit. So those of you that tuned in, should be a great show. And so I want to wish everybody, before we get into that, happy Hanukkah. We're going Hanukkah early this year. So, Paige, I think you do both, you mentioned to me. You're Hanukkah and Christmas. So how's that work?
Both.
Yes.
And it caught me a little off guard. It was early this year, and I was driving home from grocery shopping on my usual Sunday, and I got stuck behind a Hanukkah parade. So tons of floats with massive menorahs and dreidels. And that's when I'm like, got to turn around, got to go back to Target and pick up some candles.
In South Florida,
Only in Boca.
It's weird though. I'm up in Satellite Beach, which is near Orlando, and the same thing happened to me the other day. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen really a Hanukkah parade, but a bunch of cars had kind of like the thing you'd have on top of a Domino's delivery truck that kind of lights up. So they all had Happy Hanukkah with a menorah on it. Like 100 cars went down A1A. So I was like, whoa, early this year. So. Happy Hanukkah for all of you that are celebrating. It's amazing. And so we are blessed. We've been doing a series of shows, if you've not been following along, kind of about goal setting and about 2022. And so what happened about a month ago, we got together and started talking about the end of the year and what we want to talk about and who the guest should be and this and that. And then it really came to light. There's really like 4 variables coming together right now that are kind of creating this new opportunity for next year. And so we always talk about at the end of the year, creating goals, right? And so Kevin's going to talk about that. He said he does it 2 times a year with his team. But some unique things going on right now. We all hope and pray, who knows with Omicron now, right? That COVID's winding down. We'll see. So God willing. And so we all know with COVID, we had a lot of work from home process, right? A lot of companies had a new work environment. And so trying to deal with that. Are you going back into the office? Are you staying work from home? Are you doing hybrid? So a lot of folks are kind of contemplating that and what do they want to do, right? And then the third dynamic, it's really an employee's market. So I think most people are aware of that. It's a very aggressive market as companies start to hire again. And if you're on LinkedIn at all, a recruiter hasn't pinged you in the last month, you're doing something wrong, right? So very aggressive hiring. It's employees market where folks have a lot of new opportunities maybe they haven't seen before. And so trying to assess those and should I stay at my job or look at a new job and what's the model for that? And then lastly, the fourth dynamic is really, there's certainly some uncertainty in the economy, right? With all the things we hear about between Biden and the supply chain and housing market and, what's happening at the borders. So perhaps the president is creating some unrest, depending on what side of the political spectrum you're on. But those are really 4 dynamics. They're at play. They're going to make 2022 really important for a lot of people. And so we started talking and we were saying, hey, goal planning for next year could really impact folks for the next 2 or 3 years more than any other time because of these 4 variables. And so what we decided to do is find our best guests over the last 2 years, like who are the folks that folks have really enjoyed, have great followings, and Kevin being one of those. And so we're really bringing those folks back on here for the next couple of weeks and talking about 2022 and goal planning and what their thoughts are and how to make big things happen. Because that's why everyone's trying to get accomplished, right, Paige? That's the number one thing. Aren't you? I know you're trying to get done big things.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about it this morning in our team meetings. Just, there's less than 30 days to the end of the year. So as we're getting close and closer, what we got to keep in mind, stay motivated, don't give up on our goals for this year, and just push and then create some new ones for next year, reassess and continue.
Yeah, it's always interesting in the sales world how the months fall out, the days of the week. And so it'll be a challenging month of December with 2 days and then 2 full weeks, but then it's Christmas week and then New Year's week. So it's so funny when you're in the sales world, you always, there's always like, how's the month laid out and how many days I have? So we'll talk a little bit about that. So without further ado, I want to bring in Kevin Dorsey, KD, to the show. So blessed to have him. He was here before. And so those of you on LinkedIn, you'd have to be dead if you're unaware of KD. Right? So many great things. A VP and inside sales, patient pop, inside sales top 10 sales leaders, Salesforce top 16 influencer, LinkedIn top sales voice, Crunchbase top sales leader, the man in 11, avid swear, he says on LinkedIn. So KD, bro, welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Oh, man, I don't know what took so long. Right? I thought maybe I did something wrong on the last one. I thought we had a good vibe. I thought we were friends. And I was like, man, they've never had me back. Of course I'm back, baby. Let's go.
The list of people trying to jam onto this show with our 22 watchers, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It is. Lazy to tell you, the backlog to get on here is, sorry, we had to push you in.
It's all good. It's all good.
Great to see. Nice setup. So last time we spoke, you were making the move from Cali to Texas. Looks like you're all set up. What's happening in the world of Kevin Dorsey right now?
Just hanging out. We were talking about it briefly, like in this remote world, now I just pretend to work, right? I don't even have to do anything. Send a Slack here or there, maybe like an angry email to someone, So no, things are good. Things are good. We finished up a merger finally at work, which is really exciting for that to be done. I say done in quotes because the merger is done, but then also the merger is just starting. Right. So now really bringing those teams together and going through planning. So life's good, man. It's been a good year now here in Texas. Family loves it. I love it. So feeling good, man.
That's awesome. That's so great that you're getting stuff. It's so funny when you say that automated. I think one of the variables we have in our company is Paige will attest to. It's like, how do you manage by Slack or by chat? And so it is trying to keep people engaged. It's a real thing because people sometimes tune out. It's like, oh, am I really working? That is, you say it being funny, but it's a real thing, right? Folks are like, how do I stay engaged at home? Right?
Mm-hmm. Well, what's funny about that though too, and you could hit up anybody on my team and ask them how responsive I am via Slack, and the answer would be not, right? Like I don't over communicate via Slack. And that way, when you get a Slack from me, it's actually important. It's something worth communicating around. So Slack and all these things, I'm trying to remember what book it talks about. They talk about they're asynchronous, but in real time. Like when you send a Slack to someone, you kind of want a response right then, but you also don't necessarily need a response right then, and it's not natural. I'm not hyperactive on Slack at all. That way, when you get one from me, you're like, oh, he actually wants to hear back from this right now.
I'm the other end. My team will tell you I'm a failure at that. I am every 4 minutes.
No. My team can tell. My team can tell when I'm on one though. Like if I'm in it, and all of a sudden it's like, they're like, okay, he's on one. He found something. Here we go. But I'm very mindful.
I gotta mute him now. I gotta stop it. Right.
I'm very mindful of their time, right? Of when I'm sending them, and if I actually want it now or not. I'm very proactive with that. When you get a chance, get to this. And my manager still do this, oh, sorry, I'm in a one-on-one. Don't you ever apologize for being in a one-on-one. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Going down the rabbit hole I'm asking you to is not necessarily what you're supposed to be doing right now. Stay on task. Get to it when you can.
Now, the real question is, do you have Slack on your phone? Do you keep all of those apps readily available? I
have them on my phone, but no notifications. So readily available, yes. Notifications, no. I do.
How many people are in your direct line? When you hit it out of Slack, how many people is that going to?
Depending on obviously which channel, but my direct orgs are just under 150 right now.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's notable. Right. So we're having a lot of people on that process.
Yes, but I rarely, even funny enough, even around recognition. So like we have our sales channel. Someone closes a deal, right? It gets dropped in there, and I was like, woo woo, all right, Paige, close the deal. I rarely ever use that channel.
Yeah.
If Paige just closed a deal and I see everyone shouting her out, I go to Paige and say, yo, saw that deal came in. Good shit. Like, well done. I'm the one-off. I don't do it to the group hardly at all.
Yeah. When we talked about kind of the transition, work from home and what's happening, can you share maybe a little what happening in your organization? Is it work from home? Are you going back to hybrid? Do you have an office? Like, how's COVID? What has it been and what's it look like maybe for next year?
Yeah. So who the hell knows? You were just talking about it in the intro. Like every time we feel like we're getting close, there's a new, Megatron variant of what's happening. And so like we're stuck. So like this happened. So we are fully remote still. We are fully remote and we're coming up on 2 years, man. Yeah. March 15th will be 2 years of fully remote. And so there's been some things changed and some things didn't, right? So like luckily for my team and like how we run things, I'm very process oriented. And so we had processes in place already for how we prospect, how we pitch, how we demo, how we follow up. I let my team work remote all the time, even when we were in the office, right? And because we had the processes in place to do it. And I say work from home, I actually mean it. It wasn't like work from home. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go work from home today and you're out on like the golf course, because if you're on the golf course I'm probably with you, so let's not even pretend that you're working from home. So the processes were in place that allowed us actually to do very well remotely. Where we've seen the biggest struggle is the human element, right? Like people just weren't seeing each other anymore. You don't have the support anymore, right? Like at least in the office, you have a bad call, someone's right there to be like, yo, like it's okay. Yeah. Now you take a bad call, you're sitting in your bedroom like, that sucked, right? So we're still fully remote. We went back to the office hybrid for a week in June of this year and Delta. So that got shut down. Literally like it was a week. Like 1 week we were back. And then, but also too, people found out what they actually wanted. People got back to the office for a bit and they realized they didn't actually want to work from the office. They wanted to be around each other.
They want to see people, right?
And like some of my loudest advocates of like, we got to get back to the office. We got to get back. They got back to the office and they're like, yeah, so actually kind of like working from home more. Yeah. I just want to be able to see my people, right? Yeah. And so that's been the biggest issue is just that human connection is not the same now. And we're still trying to find ways to bring that to a higher level.
God, I so agree. We are dealing with that. And you know what's interesting about that variable? I would just say lovingly, the younger people really struggling more. You know what I mean? Like the older folks they're, if they have a family, they're just more grounded at home. But the 20-somethings, I mean, they're just, you know what I mean? They're like, those are the people like, can we work from home? And now we've been, like you said, a year and a half plus now. They're like, oh my gosh, if you don't have a function or let us go interact, because they're at home, a lot of them single, they're just talking to the cat or the dog, you know what I mean? And so I think it's a bigger issue even for the younger folks.
Yeah. Well, because by the time, if you're 30s and 40s and you've been in the role in the world for a while, you have a network already, right? And I think we forget about this. Like you have a network already, whether that was from work for years or kids in schools or clubs, whatever. Like you have that network. Whereas for the kids coming out of college, they don't yet. They literally don't have a network yet. Yeah. And so they normally would get that at your job. Yeah. Well, now they don't have that. I think the company was, I think it's GitLab. Don't quote me on this. Y'all can go Google it and find it out for real. But they did an interview on SaaStr. And they've been fully remote from the beginning. And one of the things that they talked about in the hiring process that was almost like a hard stop is they asked people about their social networks outside of work. Ooh. What clubs are you a part of? How, like, borderline, like, how many friends do you have outside of work? Like, what... And it's to make sure that they have a social support system, because if they don't, they struggle in a remote role. It's really hard. It's really hard.
So true.
I love that because, with daycares limiting the amount of spots and everybody shifting to remotely, I think one of the most people that have been affected are parents like myself and you as well. I'm sure you have some little ones at home. And what are your thoughts on as you're moving to like these hybrid models or into 2022 with so many unknowns? What are your thoughts on moving to like a hybrid? What does that even look like?
So I think I look at it almost like the other way a little bit. It's like, what do I know? Right? There's so many unknowns. So I'm like, okay, what do I know? I feel like in full confidence, we are not returning back to the office 100%. Like, I feel like I know that. And because I know that, then it goes, okay, how would I approach it? And because I got two littles as well, Lily and Louisa. Those are my two little gangsters here at home. And, it was hard for them. It was hard for me. It was hard for my wife. Because also, too, like, they'd never seen the work side of dad. They just saw dad, right? When I came home from work, I was dad. When I was at work, I was work. Where a lot of the kids struggle, and you probably experience this too, is it's called presenteeism, where I'm here but I'm not. That's actually harder than me not being at home, because I'm here but I'm not. I'm working. So like we can't engage. And so if I look at what I envision next year is I want people to be able to choose. If you want to be in the office, come on in. Come on into the office. You don't want to be in the office, or you can't, because there are people that can't anymore, whether they moved or they got kids at home, they've got parents that have moved in, whatever else, then you do it at home. I do not believe in a forced hybrid. And this might like freak some people out, whatever, like y'all know my style. I don't believe you can force hybrid, because then you don't get the true benefits of either. Because if you're forcing hybrid, that means I still have to live close enough to the office, right? So I don't get like the talent pool that I'm looking for, but I only get to be at home a couple days a week, so I still have to find a sitter, or I still got to figure out things for kids, right? It's actually the opposite, right? It's like you get the worst of both sides and not the best. So I believe people should pick what they want to do in office or out of office, but I don't like companies forcing this idea of like 2 days in and 3 days out. I don't like that setup.
Pages, look, you're in Pages.
I am locked in. I am soaking all of this in, which brings me to my next question. It's like, with the holidays, kids are out of school, daycares are closed, and a lot of people are still striving to hit their end of the year goals. So what kind of advice do you have as somebody who goes through it yourself to stay motivated and balance all the things that go into working from home?
So I think there's a couple layers to that question, right? There's motivation, and then there's a positive working environment, right? Like, motivation to me is very different. Whether my kids are at home or not, my motivation is high. Them being home makes it a more challenging work environment, right? And so I think maybe we'll touch on motivation when we get into the goal setting side of things. On the, having a working environment, everything in life and relationships comes down to positive and proactive communication, like communicating to your kids, right? Like when mommy's on and when mommy's off, right? And like having like set times of like, hey, even setting a timer, give me 90 minutes, y'all, 90 minutes. And I'm going to work in bursts. Because funny enough too, like when you give yourself only 90 minutes to work in a burst, you actually tend to get more done for it. So that's the first part, is like communicate with those around you, whether there's a spouse or it's to the kids. But there's also gonna be situations where you don't have that. And then that proactive communication needs to happen to your manager, your boss, your leader. Like, hey, my kids are at home. I have no daycare, 2.5. I can't just let the 2.5-year-old run amok for 90 minutes. Like, that doesn't work. Here's what I can do. And I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm going to have to jump out of meetings, or I'm going to be able to do this or that. And again, it's that proactive communication. And, again, this might slap people around a little bit, but that also gets you to learn like how your boss actually functions. Because if you came to me with that and I said, no, Paige, no, you have to, then you know how they think about you, right? Whereas it's like, hey, like, do what you can. And this is one of the hardest parts about sales, is like, how do you change that? Right? Like, how do you can't turn that off. And I empathize with that. And I have done things for some reps and managers on my team that have gone through some hard patches, or like, yo, like, I've got you. Like I've got you.
Yeah.
Like, get through this. We'll get back on track like another month. So I think working with everyone at home, be proactive with your communication, set boundaries, but work in bursts. Like, on, so then you can be off, right, for 30 minutes, an hour, and really be with them, engage, have some fun, then get back on for 60 to 90, and then come back. That would be my advice there.
I love, when you said mommy, look, do you see Paige's whole face lit up?
Right?
Exactly. Trampoline time, tire them out, maybe get a nap in, and then get back to it.
So I tell my team this all the time, and I really do try to live by this. 5 minutes of intention is better than an hour of attention.
Yeah.
If I walk out this door right now with the full intention of making my daughters laugh, don't take 5 minutes to make them laugh, to goof around, go grab a squirt gun, get the sink, whatever. The intention is to make them laugh. That is more valuable than spending an hour with them with no intention and just giving them attention. So have that intention, right? Where it's like, all right, I'm going to go make them laugh real quick. All right, I'm going to go tackle Lily. Right? I'm going to go pretend to put Louisa in the garden, right? Like just little, that's the stuff they actually remember. It's not the hour of like you kind of on your phone working via Slack, but like, oh yeah, baby, that looks good. And then back to it. Like be on that trampoline for 10 minutes, but like be there. That earns you also, I think that buys you more time to not be there because that intention is in, like it's true.
Yeah, I've said this to my team for a while. I was like, if you sent me home when I was 23 and said go work home, I would be an alcoholic. I would definitely be an AA. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. Then if you got through that phase of life, and like Paige, when you get to homeschooling, somebody trying to like do their job and manage homeschooling, I mean, I don't know how parents are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's.
I mean, quick tip: a lot of us aren't.
I mean,
we're trying.
Right. That's all the blowback at the school board meetings, right? Because parents are for the first time hearing, you know, and they're like, "What did that teacher just say?" You know what I mean? You're like, "This is not landing well." So what's happening right now, with families and this work from home thing is done, and this new thing that'll be still. I think you're right. It's water. It's still coming. What does it look like in 2024? No one knows, right? But it's definitely going to be notably different. Just like schools are going to be different. Healthcare is going to be different. This thing that's happened now, we're never going back. Everyone's waiting around like, when are we going back? And we're never going. We're never going back ever. It's over. Hey, when you think about 2022 particularly, great experience, a super successful career, a lot of folks. What are one or two things stick with you right now as you start personally, or when you talk to your team? 150 folks. Any tidbits you kind of help them frame as they start thinking about next year? Big nuggets. You're like, hey, I don't want to tell you what to do, but here's some road markers of things that you're thinking about, or you want your team to be thinking about.
So I mean, the number one thing I want my team thinking about is themselves, right? Like, what do they want to achieve? My job is to help them achieve what they want. Ideally, they can achieve what they want working with and for me. But if they can't, I also do view that as my role to provide them a path to what it is they are looking for. Yeah. Because if I can't give you what you're looking for, if I cannot support you in that path, if your journey is different, then as a leader, it's my job to help you find something that could, right? And so making sure that my reps and my managers take time to define what is it they want. Right. And this falls into a few buckets. One, okay, there's always the easy one, monetary. What do you want to make this next year? Okay, that's the first. But after that but how do you want to live and how do you want to work? And if you can define those three buckets, now we can have a conversation about like, okay, how can we actually achieve those things? But they need to be defined, right? Most people, when they set goals in life, they use the M word or the L word, more or less. They want to make more money. They want to spend less. They want to lose weight. But it's never specific enough, right? And so they wonder why they didn't I want to be more active. All right. All right. I did a little something that I didn't do before. I am now more active, right? Yeah. So it's helping them define what it is that they want by asking those types of questions, right? Like, how much do you want to make? How do you want to be working? And then how do you want to be living? Because that's what people also always forget, like around like money. Like, money actually isn't the goal, and money actually motivates very few people. Very few people. It's less than 3% of people are actually money motivated. Everyone likes money, but motivation means it actually changes and drives your behavior. Less than 3% of people are actually money motivated, right? They want money, but they're not motivated by it, because money isn't what you actually want. You want what you think it comes from. Right? Because my first mentor asked me this question. I might have even said this on the last time I was on the show. Sat me down and said, hey, and I asked y'all, would being a millionaire make you happy? Would being a millionaire make you happy? Paige, would you be happy if you were a millionaire? Not a trick question. Don't overthink this. I'm an analytical
person. I would need a little bit more than $1 million to be happy, but yes.
Okay. All right. 2 million. What's the number? 4 million?
5 million. 5 million.
5 million. Okay. 5 million. Okay, awesome. So if I hand you a briefcase right now with $5 million in it, but you can't spend it, are you happy?
No.
Why not? You have five. You literally just told me that having $5 million would make you happy. I just handed you a briefcase with $5 million, but you can't do anything with it. You're not happy. Why not?
Maybe it's because I'm a more materialistic person than I thought. I can't use those funds towards the materials that I want to achieve in life.
There, right? It's not the money that you want. It's what you believe the money will give you. Whether that is a feeling of security, a house, a car, a savings. That's what actually will motivate people more. And oftentimes they pick a number that has nothing to do with those things and they never tie it together, right? It's not the money. It's the things that come from the money that you're hopeful for that actually will motivate you.
You know, there's two things in there that are really interesting. The other side of that is, I think folks so fixate on the money, and it's like, I always try to go, hey, you hit the lottery, you got the money, you hit the lottery, 10 million. Once you've done all the things, so you bought the car, you bought your house, you bought mama house, paid off your bills, like then life returns to normal. You know what I mean? And like, what does that look like 90 days after? I think that's the part people never want to, rarely want to talk about, right? Like once you've done all the, you went to best vacation, bought the house. Like, what's that look like? That's real because it goes back to that whether people want to talk about it or not. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, I love what you said, which I think for this goal setting thing is so important. Folks, we put up like artificial barriers around ourselves. Like, oh, am I staying at this job? I'm not staying at this job, right? And it's like so odd because I think, you hinted at it. Like, I love to talk to our folks. I'm like, hey, maybe this is not the home for you. Not in a way like we want you to leave, but like, when you open that door, it makes the conversation more even because if not, it seems very biased, right? The employer's like, well, you got to stay. Let's start with your staying. Now what? But when you open the door and go, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to make? And what's your lifestyle want to be? And I hope that's here, but maybe not. You know what I mean? It opens the door for folks to really think about what do you want the next year or two to be? And if this is it, great. If not, hey, what would that be? And how do we make that up? I think that's so empowering, right? And you start talking to your staff and making sure that you're aligned and you're on the same team. Yeah.
100%. It's what they want, and just even finding out what that is big for most people. No one really asks them that, right? Like no one asks them what their goals are, right? Like what do they want to be doing, and then why, right? Like why is that your goal, right? If I was actually going through this with Paige, right? It's like, all right, $5 million, cool, okay. How much would we have to make over the next 5 years in order to get there? Okay, we have to make $1 million per year to get there. Okay, great. Let's table that for a second. Why 5 million? Why 5 million? Because you might actually find out you don't even need 5 million for what you're talking about. It might be 2.74. Yeah. Well, that changes now the goal, right? And then you get into the specifics on how to achieve it. So one of the things that I teach to my team. This quote came from James Clear in the book Atomic Habits. Phenomenal read. If you haven't read it, go read it. But he talks about winners and losers have the same goals. Yeah. Winners and losers have the same goals. The winners just have better processes, systems, and skills. Right? No one wakes up and goes like, dude, I can't wait to work more and make less this year. No team wakes up and goes, you know what, y'all? Let's go 0 for 16 this year. Like, the winners and losers have the same goals. That was such just like a slap of like, you're right? But the winners have better processes, systems, and skills. So what are the processes that you're setting up, the systems you're creating, or the skills you're developing to accomplish those goals? And then I help my team bucket them into what we call 3x3s. So the 3x3s are, what are the 3 things daily, weekly, and monthly that if you did would give you the best chance of success to achieve that goal? 3 things daily, 3 things weekly, 3 things monthly, specific to that goal that would help you succeed, right? So a good example is, and these are where you get into process goals. So say I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to lose 15 pounds. And part of losing those 15 pounds, I want to run every morning, okay? Running every morning is not a 3x3. A 3x3 would be, I will put my shoes, clothes, and everything at the foot of the bed. That's one thing I could do daily. I'll put the alarm clock outside of the room. That'd be another thing daily. And I will plan my route the night before. If I do those 3 things, am I more likely to do my run? That's how you go after goals. Or what are the things that will help you do it and getting really specific with those 3x3s, monthly, weekly, and daily, now you have a system. Now you have a process in place to get you to that goal. And so we help our team, my reps, map this out. We do this twice a year, January and July. You know why we do it twice a year? Because by July, most people have forgotten their goals completely, right? Because as human beings, we're so ridiculous. Because one, we apparently can never.
How long is that? Is it a day? Is it a half a day? How long?
So the exercise is an hour and a half. So it's an hour and a half, and it's like step by step. What are your goals? Next part. Who do you need to be to achieve those goals? Next step. Why? Why do you want these goals? What changes in your life? What positives would come, or what negatives would you not have to deal with if you changed it? Next step. Why you? Why do you believe you can do this? What traits do you have? What skills do you have? What networks do you have? What hard things have you accomplished before that leads you to believe you could accomplish this thing? Then we get into what will it take to get there? Behavioral, process, skill, and then we get into our 3x3s. And this is an hour and a half exercise. And then now, especially in the sales world, is call it easier. Those 3x3s, the manager has those. Now they know this is what Paige said Paige was gonna do to hit Paige's goal. Well, now it's not me saying, "Yo, Paige, where your dial's at, girl? Come on." It's like this was your goal, and this is why you said you wanted this goal. And this is what you said you were going to do to achieve that goal. How can I help you do this? It changes the whole management dynamic as well. And every single time we do this, we see a massive spike in results. Every single time. Every time. It's so I would do this monthly if I could, honestly, because every time is there. But then it comes back down because as humans, we get away from the things that we're supposed to do, right? So we do it twice a year, January and July, right? Because as human beings, we can never start on like the 3rd. That's always my favorite thing. I'll start next month, or what most of y'all, and y'all already know, and you're doing this right now, I'm going to get healthier next year. Because, you can't start now. You couldn't possibly start that now. You got to wait till January 1st to do it. And then I think quitting day is January 17th.
Too many holiday parties.
Are full.
Right? It's like, I couldn't possibly be healthy during that. No. But January I will.
So let's say you go through that whole planning process, and I love that. It's step by step. Anybody could do that. But let's say you go through all of that and you hit those goals. How do you kind of like reassess? Maybe you reach those goals and realize, all right, what's next? Would you say you just go through the process again and find out what that new thing, or how do you reassess?
So my honest response to this is I wish more people had that problem. Our problem is not that we set these goals and we don't know what to do next. Our problem is we rarely set them, and we even more rarely actually achieve our goals.
Yeah.
It's just the honest truth of it all. When you get, it's addicting. And this, again, when you know what it's like to set a real goal, not like a made up, I want to lose some weight, or, I want to get a promotion, like a real goal. You want to make $2.74 million over the next 3 years. And in order to do that, here's what you're going to do. And you hit that first year, there is nothing more motivating to then go do the next step of it, right? So I think that's the one angle. The other angle is that's the beauty of goals. That's also why I do it twice a year, is because your goals could change, right? Your goals could change, and it's okay to give up on a goal that no longer serves you. And this is something I think people get twisted all the time. Is they'll also latch onto a goal. It's well, this was my goal. Well, if you never defined why you were doing it, you might be sticking with something that doesn't even make any sense. I can speak personally about this.
To begin with.
Right. I set a goal at the beginning of this year to walk 10,000 steps and 5 miles every day. Every day for this year. Right? Why? Because I wanted to be healthier. I wanted my stress levels to be down. I thought I'd be more creative from it. I had my good reasons why. Maybe I'll lose some weight, maybe not. Doesn't matter. I made it 293 days. Wow. 293 days. I did not miss, right? I intentionally stopped because the goal was, the why was, it was no longer serving me. My stress levels were not going down. My creativity was not there, and it was taking 2 to 3 hours combined per day to do it. It was no longer serving me. My body was no longer adapting to it, right? Like it was used to it. So to get the same adaptations, I have to walk now 6 miles a day, 7 miles a day, when I knew the why. So I intentionally stopped, but then replaced it with something that I thought would give me a better shot of achieving those whys. So it was a very intentional 293. People are like, why didn't you just finish it? Because there was no point to. I wasn't actually going to get anything out of those remaining 72 days. Right? But I've replaced it with weightlifting. I've replaced it with the cold plunge in my garage. I've replaced it with sauna and breath work. And I'm getting the results that I want from those things.
I think the part when you talk about why, the Simon Sinek thing, to me that's critical, right? So and you are a very confident guy. You're chasing, and you do it aggressively. I think that's part of the process, how folks achieve having the confidence level. But the why part, right, is so important because this quick side story. I used to drink a dozen Cokes a day. True story, like straight up. Doctors would be like, "You can't drink a dozen Cokes a day." I'm like, well, "Yeah, maybe 14." I'm being conservative at 12.
Right.
Yeah. But I had this thing, a problem with my health. And my mom had early dementia, and I'd never gone through that. It was horrible. And this thing I tested, hey, that might be in your bloodstream, and I'm like, oh, no more Cokes. And it was so easy because that why part, I didn't want to go through. I saw my mom go through it. It was easy. It was so easy. You'd have told me a week before you're going to stop drinking Cokes, not a chance. I stopped cold turkey because the why was so powerful. As a kid, I watched what my mom went through. It was not even a thing. And I think when folks get into goal setting, that's what they do. They don't really go for the long walk and figure out the why, which is really important. They kind of make up some goals. Well, I should want more money. I should want to get promoted. I should want a bigger house. And they don't really go, hey, what's inside of me that really lights my fire? Because when you find that, right, and you do go, if there's you both have kids, mine are grown. Like if something bad was going to happen to your kid, nothing would stop you, right? You'd be like, you mess with my kid, I'm all in. Right? And so I think we lack the ability to do that for ourselves when we're grown adults. So do you have any thoughts or tips or what you see to help folks kind of work through what's real, not what the world says they should do, but how do they find their why? That Simon Sinek, like how do they ferret that out? Any idea? Any thoughts, feedback?
So one, it's actually asking the questions, right? So first you just have to actually ask yourself why, right? Like that literally simplest step. All right, I want to lose more weight. Why?
Yeah.
Right. But if this is going to be recording, y'all can go play back and I actually ask the questions, right? To help you define your why, what will change? Right? What will change in your life by achieving this? How will you feel? What will you be able to do that you can't do now? And then you flip it to the negative. What bad things are you dealing with that you wouldn't have to deal with if you accomplished this goal? What are the things that you hate having to deal with that achieving this goal would allow you to stop having to do? That everything has to change something in your day to day. This is also why when most people say, if I ask Paige, all right, well, why do you want to make more money? You ask almost anyone why they want to make more money. So often the first response is financial security. Financial security. Okay, so what does that mean? Right? You don't want financial security. You want security. That's not what's going to light you up, right? Versus I could afford an in-home nanny. I could get a bigger place to live so we have the backyard. I wouldn't have to hear the neighbors. And what would change? That is what will drive that behavior. And you write that stuff down. So I got all my goals right here. They're at my desk, right? My goals, right? I don't know if y'all can see this. It's
a little one. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Okay. So this is, roughly 12 or 13 pages or so. The goals only make up one page of this. It's the things that would change, the things that I'm looking for, who I need to be, what words resonate with me. That's here. And then I keep my 3x3s on note cards right on my desk. Right? I'm like, okay, these are the goals. Here's here's what I'm committing to on a daily basis or weekly basis. Am I doing those things? Because then we never check in, right? We set the goal, it goes into the drawer, and then, oops, missed it. Right?
I'm moving right now, and you I did it the other day. I had my 2010 goals. You're like, oh, how many of these I get done? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's so funny that you write it down because I do something similar, and a lot of people are going to think I'm weird for this, but I just believe in the moon and the energy and rocks and what they mean. And you don't have to believe in it. It's more of just kind of like a reminder. So I have a number over here with my rocks on it.
Oh,
what I want to do this month. I'm going to hide it because I don't want to put anybody's name. But this is the number that I want to hit this month because it's going to help me with my yearly goal. And I have it sitting in front of me because I want to constantly have it in my view and see it, just kind of like what we learned from the last GovCast with Angel, just having something visual there to remind you to help you stay committed. So it sounds like you're kind of doing something similar, like having all of those goals right in front of you. Is there anything else that you personally do to help you stay committed to those goals?
Yeah. It's reading all the whys. The goal is easy, right? I want to make $1 million next year. Okay. There's the goal.
Yeah.
That takes 10 seconds. I'm reading why. What will that change? What will my life look like? What could I do with that? And you can visualize it. So that's the part of like visualizing not the accomplishment of the goal, the things that accomplishing that goal would allow you to do and see it vividly, right? Wake up on that beach, like you see it, right? Yeah. Picture yourself pulling into the driveway of that new house, like walking up and like I don't know if y'all see it, like getting goosebumps talking about but that's how you know if it's a real goal though. Because if it doesn't elicit that type of emotional response, back to Jack's earlier question, if picturing accomplishing that goal doesn't light you up in a big way, it's probably not a good enough goal or your whys aren't strong enough. So the day it gets hard, you're gonna give up. Whereas if you've got that why, you read it daily, you visualize it daily, who you need to be, how that person would act. That's the other question we ask often, is like, how would this version of you behave, right? Like if you think about the goal that you were afraid to show everybody, I'm gonna challenge you one day to put that public, right? Like make your goals public, right? You should never be ashamed of your goals unless they're illegal. Then probably don't share them. But like that, you see it because, funny enough though, actually, I know we're getting on time, but like to wrap on this, if there's any hesitation in sharing a goal, that also means there's some hesitation internally sometimes of like, do we actually believe we can or should do it? How would other people respond? Versus that's your goal. Doesn't matter how that impacts anyone else. Again, unless it's a bad goal, right? If you're like, I want to go rob 20 people, well then maybe don't share that publicly. But like you should be willing to share, because it's your goal and the world should know that goal. Because otherwise you're gonna, if you're afraid to share, it means you're also generally afraid to achieve. There's something in there that's pulling you back from doing it. So you write the goal, you write the why, you visualize it, and then you stick with it as much as you can, and you can check in. Did I do my 3x3s? Did I do them?
Well, listen, I don't want to miss this point. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but again, I think most people create a laundry list of goals because they feel like they need 5 or 7. But I would just say if folks have 1 or 2 things that lights a fire in them, like, hey, I want to be a parent. I want, those things always get accomplished. Right? It's like, if it truly is in your soul, like, hey, I want to whatever, I really, I didn't want to get dementia. Like that, there was no, you didn't have to, no one had to tell me, it was in my soul, quick. And so that's
called the Keystone. So that what we talk about internally is the Keystone Goal is the one that, if accomplished, will have the biggest impact on all the other goals. Yeah. What is the Keystone Goal? That if you accomplish this one, it impacts all the other ones. And that one generally does always fall into 2 buckets, health or wealth. Yeah. Almost always. That keystone will fall into health or wealth. And if you accomplish your health goal, funny enough, oftentimes your wealth goes up. But also, if you accomplish your wealth goal, that can sometimes allow your health to go up because you can afford the personal trainer, you can afford the meal delivery, you can afford time to do things, right? So health or wealth generally is a great keystone, and that flows down to everything else.
I love your thing of people that achieve their goals and people that don't, have the same goals, right? It's like a successful one. That's such a true thing. No one writes down, this year I want to finish at half of quota. You know what I mean? Everyone has the same. It's
everyone says it, but truthfully, most people don't actually set goals. And I think this is from Tony Robbins, but it's a goal is just an idea until it's written down. Yeah. Most people don't actually set goals. It's here.
Right.
Yeah, I want to make more money. No, that's just an idea. That's not a goal yet. You weren't even willing to write it down. That's not a goal. That's an idea. That's a thought. That doesn't matter. Most people do not write down their goals.
Yep.
Period. That is the vast majority. And we know because we can look at society today. Tell me that 90% of people are writing down goals every single year.
Yeah.
Of course they're not. They don't.
Yeah, we had Deborah Eckling on 2 weeks ago, and that was her biggest thing, all of it. And she has a whole written model of the Dev method, of writing it down, breaking down like a different model. But like all of it was about, we always hear authors should write every day. She was like, write it down, write parts of it down, how it changes. She swears by that. Having it writing, modifying it, going back and looking at it. There's so much learning in that. So, go ahead, Paige.
I was going to say, just before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that this doesn't get lost. And this is one of the things that you mentioned earlier in conversation that really resonated with me, that I don't want to get lost in the overall great messages that you're sharing with us is, just because you give up a goal doesn't mean that you're giving up. You're just reassessing of what the true goal is. And that really spoke to me. And I just want to make sure we touch on that one last time, that just because you're shifting your mindset, shifting your goals, giving up on one thing doesn't mean you're truly giving up. You're just truly going after what you really feel deeply.
Right. You should always be thinking of different ways to accomplish the goal, right? Mm-hmm. Like you may find a better way. There may be a better way to do it, but also finding out if that goal is serving you. Because again, my goal technically was not to walk 5 to 10 miles per day. The goal was to be healthier, lower stress, be more creative, right? Maybe lose some weight. Those were the actual goals, and the tool was that. Well, yeah, I made it 993 days in, and it was no longer helping me achieve the actual goal. So you can change. Sometimes grit can be a flaw, especially for people like all of us on this call, is we refuse to lose, which also we don't want to be a quitter. We don't want to fail, right? Like, I don't quit. Katie doesn't quit. Sometimes you probably should, because it's not actually letting you get to the goal that you're trying to get to, right? So I'm glad you brought that back up, because, again, in all this, 1, people should be setting more goals. 2, they should be setting better whys. But 3, don't latch on to a goal that isn't yours, to Jack's point, right? Like, if it's not lighting you up, but then 2, if it's not actually getting you what you want. And this, I can say this out loud now because, I've gone through it, and sometimes that's it. Like, people will chase money goals, they'll chase title goals, and I'll tell y'all, like, you wake up maybe happier for a day or 2, and then, but if you never, if you didn't become the person, right? If you didn't become that person, you just achieved the goal, it doesn't change, right? That's where we're always chasing happiness outside of us, right? Like, I don't accomplish goals to make me happy. I accomplish goals because I'm happy, because I'm okay with who I am and what I've done and what I live for. That's what helps me achieve goals. But if you're always chasing happiness through goals, it never stops, and you're never going to be happy no matter what.
I think one of the examples too with the work from home, there's so many more. If you touch health, it's easier to relate to, but there's so many more options to do health at home. With the mirror, and there's all these new technologies. There's that. You just put on the wall. Like, you don't have to join a gym, and maybe you don't have to go run. So there's the work from home thing is creating a lot of new options to be healthy that weren't even around a year ago. Which is so interesting.
So I want to touch on something there real quick that I didn't touch on, but it's part of the exercise. Is then we break it into small chunks, right? So it's called like the Kaizen Approach. If you're familiar with Kaizen, right? It's like, never-ending daily improvement. It's actually important to do that with goals too. Build up to them. Because when we do this, right, say I'm going to be healthier. Okay, January 1st, because again, I couldn't start today. Why start today? I'll start January 1st. January 1st, okay. I'm going to run 3 miles a day. I'm going to intermittent fast till 2. I'm going to take these supplements. I'm going to lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and nothing but green smoothies and no carbs for the first 9 weeks. And the brain goes, the hell you will?
Yeah.
Like, that's way too much to do versus I'm going to start walking. And after I've walked for a week, then I'm going to add in 1 day of intermittent fasting. And after I've done that for a week, I'm going to add in 2 days of intermittent. You take the first 90 days. And funny enough, this is why I set my goals in September. So I set my goals in September to give myself 90 days to build up to the behaviors that I would need to be successful to achieve the goal next year. So you build it up, small pieces, laughably small. If you're trying to be healthier and you're working from home, do 10 jumping jacks. 10. Check the box. I did it. Did my 10. And then next week, do 15. you might be shocked doing that 10 that you kind of go, I can do more than 10, and you do 15, right? But like, let it build up. That's actually really important with goals too. Is we set these big goals, it actually lights up the fear part of the brain. If anyone's heard of like BHAG, y'all familiar with that term? Big, hairy, audacious goal. If your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. That's BS. If they're too big, your brain doesn't believe it and you won't do it. Make them small enough that you can build up to.
Yeah. Hey, so I know you were doing a million things to help folks get there day to day. So I'd love to kind of have you share some of those from the Patreon group to the podcast. So can you walk through those? So I know you have a ton of resources out there to help people, and I'm sure folks feel your energy. So they want to connect. Can you share with us some of those, what they are?
For sure. So, I mean, I have my own podcast, Live Better, Sell Better, right? And it's called that for a reason. I have this weird idea that if we took better care of ourselves, if we had better mindsets, better energy, more happiness, that the sales also gets better, right? So this idea of like live better, sell better is something I really try to embrace and focusing on the person and salesperson. So the podcast is Live Better, Sell Better. And then the Patreon group is where I do like heavy trainings. For example, the goal setting training is in the Patreon group. Full hour-long session, a workbook that comes with it. Like I put heavy trainings into the Patreon group that, you know, I could talk about this on a podcast. I could do a LinkedIn post, but it doesn't give you like the juice. I have like, I think 25 hours now of like sales training, mindset training, leadership training in that Patreon. So that's another place you can get a little bit more of what I'm putting out there. If you vibe with me, if you don't vibe with me, don't go in there, please. I don't need you to go in there just to tell me you think I'm wrong. Like, just don't go in there. It's fine. I'll deal with it.
What's the Patreon? The Patreon group, what? There's a little fee, right? What's the structure of that?
$10 a month. Like it's literally nothing. Like it's one grande burrito at Chipotle with guac. Like so, like I'm like probably gonna change that next year. Also, there's almost 500 people in there now, which has been great. But $10 a month, y'all. It's month to month, or you can buy a year for like $100. Like that's not where I'm trying to make money from, but I do want people investing in themselves to like at least take it a little bit more serious than someone who's not.
It's so awesome. Listen, you already know this. You have super great energy, right? And folks you have that magnetism that folks are crazy if they're not drawn to that group. For $10 a month, chance to hear the best of what Katie's doing. Before we let you go, any last tips? Anything we missed? Anything you want to make sure we hit on? Any last advice for Paige in her parenting?
Okay, so I would say for everyone, y'all, like it's the perfect time to like have this conversation. Set at least one goal.
Amen.
Set at least one goal, and by set I mean write it down, but go back and go through this exercise. Why that goal? Who would you need to be? What would change? What gets better? What would stay bad or get worse if you did it? And then create systems to help you achieve it. But that first time you really set a goal and you hit it, like that is addicting.
Yeah.
That's what you want to get addicted to. Like, get addicted to setting goals and going after them, because this is the beautiful part that we'll wrap on, right? And my mentor told this to me in that briefcase example. He said, you can't be a millionaire until you become a millionaire. Like, you have to think like a millionaire, act like a millionaire, like behave like a millionaire, work like a millionaire. Like, if you are living like that version of you, all right, you went for $1 million and you landed at 700K. Oh no. Right, like, but you became that person.
Yeah.
You just set the next goal for the next year, and you're more likely to get there. And so, like, that'd be my parting advice, y'all: is become that version of yourself that would achieve these goals. You can really accomplish whatever the hell it is you want to do.
You mind sharing any goal you set for next year? You mind sharing?
All right, I already said it, right? I'm not afraid, Paige, right? I want to make $1 million next year. I want to gross over $1 million in income next year. And I have my 3x3s ready. I'm already building up on those things. I might even post about this publicly as I go. Because also people are always afraid to like share money goals, right? Like, what are people going to think? And this was a lot of work for me to get to. Like, to say that out loud to people, I never would have done that 2-3 years ago. Now I'm like, look, like that in no way negatively impacts your life. There's more than enough money out there. I'm going to go about this. I'm going to chase it. See if I can get there, right? So that's one right there.
There you go. That's awesome. So hopefully, look, our 12 followers will pop into Patreon. We'll help not move the ball for you.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for your time and energy. Kevin Dorsey, KD, the best. If you need anything, go online, sales. He is the master. Go see him. Follow his stuff.
Thanks, y'all.
Yes. I love the concept. Listen, the people that are successful have the same goals as the people that aren't. That's so great. It's so true.
I soaked up a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the energy that he has is amazing. I love that concept, right? Because no one goes, tomorrow I really want to stink at something. It is just what's the support, in the process. And I think one thing we did not talk about that I think is real, who are your support things around you? He mentioned at the end, he has a mentor, right? I wanted to ask him who that is, but it's a real thing that one of the things I always try to share with our team. It's like a lot of people around us are not necessarily want us to succeed. It's a little competitive vibe, and make sure you're surrounded with people that help support you, right, Paige? Like who's helping you get your goals?
My brokers. My brokers I share with them my goals. I tell them, here's where I want to go. Yeah. Here's how I'm going to try and get there. And if I'm, slow, my pace is slower than I want, I reflect and I tell them, what am I doing? You got to have that support system. You got to have that mirror, somebody outside the situation to help guide you.
It's so good. Yeah. I don't think people, just to be really clear, I don't think anyone intentionally is out to keep us from self-actualizing, right? Achieving goals. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of it's subconscious. Like there's a little bit of competitive vibe. Sometimes folks are like, oh, let's go out this weekend. Let's go spend money, when you could be doing something to, make yourself better. And not everyone's on that. I want to be, super successful in the long term. So just encourage folks to look around, see who's in your circle. There's that study. Last thing is like, you become most like the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And so we did that in our office a couple of years ago. Everyone was looking around, who sits next to me, right? I'm at my desk. So it's so funny. All right,
switch my seat a little.
You're like, oh, can we change office rearrangement? So, any last things? Anything else, Paige, before we go?
No. I mean, if anything, I would just share a Ted Lasso quote.
What do you got?
When you say impossible, that means I'm possible. I hear I'm possible.
We're out with that thought. We're gone. Thank you. Have a great early December. God bless. Happy Hanukkah. See you next Wednesday. Who will be here eating cognac? Don't miss it.